Stood defiant today in the face of a ghastly terrorist attack. President Trump renewed his attacks on London's mayor, Sadiq Khan, who responded he has far more important things to worry about.
My focus since Saturday has been dealing with the horrific attack on our city, on Londoners and on visitors. I've really not got time to respond to tweets from Donald Trump. We've got to recognise some people want to divide our communities. Some people thrive on fueling division. That's not me, that's not the London that I know. And we aren't going to allow anybody, whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else, to divide our communities.
7 people were killed, dozens injured in the terror attack, England's third in just 3 months. Authorities today identifying the 2 of the 3 alleged attackers, all of whom were killed by police. As the story was breaking, before the streets were even secure, President Trump retweeted an unconfirmed claim about the attack from the Drudge Report, prompting NBC News to declare, quote, President Trump has used Twitter to share news report on London incident. We aren't relaying President's retweet as the info is unconfirmed. It wasn't just NBC. Last Thursday in the Rose Garden, the president attributed to terrorism an attack that left 37 dead at a casino in Manila. Police later said the motive had been robbery, not terrorism. That Associated Press pointed to that claim, along with the president's comments on the London attack and others, to declare today that President Trump can't be counted on to give accurate information to Americans when violent attacks are unfolding abroad. The president used the London attack to criticize gun control efforts and push his travel ban. He also seized on this statement from Mayor Khan.
Londoners will see an increased police presence today and over the course of the next few days. No reason to be alarmed.
The mayor was clearly telling Londoners not to be alarmed over the increased police presence, but President Trump blatantly took his words out of context, tweeting, at least 7 dead, 48 wounded in terror attack, and Mayor of London says there's no reason to be alarmed. He then followed up today with this pathetic excuse by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who had to think fast on his no reason to be alarmed statement. MSM is working hard to sell it. The president's comments left New York
That is
Mayor Bill de
disgusting.
Blasio incredulous.
We've been through attacks. We know what it feels like. And Mayor Khan is doing exactly the right thing. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't have a lot of experience handling security situations, but it just makes no sense. It's not fair to Mayor Khan. It's not fair to the people of London.
In England, as NBC's Bill Neely reported today, the response was much the same.
Part of the spirit of defiance on the streets of London is not just defiance of the bombers who did what they did on Saturday night, but now defiance of President Trump, because his tweets have been condemned by politicians from all parties.
At the White House today, Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders attempted to argue that President Trump did not take Khan's words out of context.
Oh, yes, she did.
The point is there is a reason to be alarmed. We have constant attacks going on, not just there, but across the globe, and we have to start putting national security and global security at an all-time high.
As the Trump administration
Be afraid,
was urging people to
be
alarmed,
very
the people
afraid.
of England were unbowed. A huge,
Be
enormous
afraid of
crowd
Trump,
came out yesterday
man.
for a benefit concert led by singer Ariana Grande to help the victims of that suicide bombing 2 weeks ago that took place at Grande's concert in Manchester.
Instead of being all scared to come here, like people not coming, we need to just stick together and actually not be scared about things, because I feel like whoever's doing this want us to be scared.
Joining me now, Democratic Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. First, I guess I'd like to get your reaction to the president's words spread over a number of tweets today in reaction both to what happened in London and generally what's happening here at home.
Well, first, his comments about the mayor of London was just outrageous. This is a day in which we should be showing our solidarity with our close partner, the UK, but instead the president calls into question the mayor's comment, which was taken totally out of context by the president. So it was not a good moment, and certainly causes a strain between the relationship between the UK and the United States.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
No. Particularly right after a major tragedy, we all come together. That's what happens. Whether it's something that happens in our family or something that happens in our nation, we come together and we support each other. That's not what the president showed as the president of the United States to the people of the UK, and it was disappointing.
Do you wonder or worry or think about how this president would react or will have to react when there is some kind of acute crisis here in this country?
Well, first, I would hope the president would reflect before he sends out a tweet which is totally inaccurate.
Don't
And then
expect
secondly,
it.
when the president says something that's just not right, he's got to correct himself. He's got to come down and say, gee, I misunderstood what he said, or make it clear. But when you listen to what the mayor of London said, there is no misunderstanding here of what he was talking about when he told the people that there would be an extra police presence and that shouldn't alarm them. And then the president says something different. When he listens to what the mayor said, he needed to correct himself. So, yes, I am concerned that the way the president conducts policy is reckless and dangerous to the U.S. interest.
The president
reckless
blamed,
and
Democrats in the
dangerous.
Senate
Yes.
for blocking his nominees. What's your response to that?
That's another
Well, it's
one.
totally fake news. The president hasn't submitted his nominees to Congress, to the Senate yet.
Yeah.
He has to nominate. He hasn't nominated. He has the slowest pace we've ever seen. There's been absolutely no delay in the United States Senate in consideration of his nominees. So once again, he's just making this up. If anything, we have a problem with the president not sending in nominations to the Senate.
There's two ways, I think, to interpret this: the massive vacancies in the federal government. One is that it makes it hard for the government to function. There's huge amounts of positions in management that are vacant. The other is that it's better functionally for the actual career people with institutional knowledge to be filling those roles than the people the president might nominate. Which of those are you disposed to think?
No, clearly you need confirmed people in place in order to carry out policies from the Trump administration. The career people do not want to be, they cannot speak as to the policies of the administration. So therefore, they're really at a disadvantage if they don't have the principal person confirmed in the area in which they're working. So no, it works as a disadvantage to the career people.
Given the vacancy at the FBI, which is created by the president himself, given the vacancies of these senior positions up and down the entirety of the federal government, is the U.S. prepared for a crisis? Is the U.S. prepared for what may be around the corner, whether that should be something like an attack?
Hell
or
no.
a national
600
crisis, or even a
positions
national
unfilled.
disaster?
Are
Do
you
feel
kidding me?
confident the federal government is
It's like,
prepared?
kid yourself.
We're a real resilient
Oh, resilient,
country. We
yeah.
have a strong system.
We'll
We have
get all
strong
those
people in
reserves
place that
out.
will carry out and do their work. But we could be stronger if we had the people in place that should be there. So I think the president is not doing a service to the American people or to the missions of our different agencies when he doesn't make the necessary
He's
appointments.
too busy
But
watching
we will
TV and
respond as
tweeting.
we need to because we have the
Blaming the
experts in place
Democrats.
in order to carry out the policies of America.
All right, Senator Ben Cardin, thanks for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joining analyst Ned Price, who also serves special assistant to President Obama, and spokesperson, senior director of National Security Council, MSNBC contributor, former FBI double agent Naveed Jamali, senior fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Ned, I want to start with you because you were a spokesperson in the White House, and to me, one of the most astounding things that's happened in the last 24 hours is a staffer of the president picking a fight with a London mayor. As the bodies have not been identified, counted, I mean, we are talking in the midst of this horror. A staffer is picking a fight. This is Dan Scavino referring back to a tweet from the mayor of London who was responding to then candidate Trump's Muslim ban call, talking about it being an ignorant view of Islam. And here's Scavino saying, refer to below tweet 13 months ago after you criticized now President real Donald Trump and wake up. This is a point scoring, dunking on someone from a Twitter staffer to an actual head of the city of London. I've never seen anything remotely like this.
It's, Chris, very difficult to imagine this is the reality we are living in just 4 months into the Trump administration. Look, one of the most powerful weapons in our national security and foreign policy arsenal is the presidential bully pulpit. It is the voice of the commander-in-chief. Going back through history, it's not only the FDR quote that Josh mentioned, but it's President Kennedy telling Khrushchev that we would not submit to nuclear weapons in Cuba. It's President Reagan telling Gorbachev to tear down that wall. It's President George H.W. Bush telling Iraq that aggression against Kuwait Kuwait would not stand. That is what the world looks to when there is a crisis, when there is a challenge that we're collectively facing. And with these antics, both President Trump and his top aides, including Dan Scavino in this case, have diluted a powerful, perhaps one of the most powerful weapons in our arsenal. By weakening this weapon, the president will have less credibility now when push comes to shove, and he's called upon to serve in that ever-important role as commander-in-chief.
And Naveed, the subtext here, which is important, is it gets down to the president's views on Islam and on Muslims and the degree to which they are implicated or suspect as a class. This is a man of calling a ban. London has a Muslim mayor, Sadiq Khan, who spoke incredibly movingly about his connection to his faith and how he viewed these attacks through that prism. And it seems inescapable to me that that's part of the subtext of this back and forth.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Chris. I could agree with you more there. And look, besides the sort of, the Muslim component here, there's also a practical one here. And I'm sure Ned can expand on this as well. But the idea is that when you're coming from a law enforcement perspective, you can only go so far. You cannot necessarily affect an arrest. And as we're looking at terrorists, in many cases, they don't actually commit anything illegal until they actually perpetrate the act. Right. On the intelligence side, it's the same problem. You're looking outside of the continental United States, you're looking outside the UK. What that means is that as a law enforcement or an intelligence officer, you rely on the community as part of that first line of defense. And so just as a practical matter, when the President of the United States comes out and the reaction to a terrorist attack is to push a Muslim ban, it's going to do nothing more. And look, I've gotten emails from people that are case officers that complain that their assets are very concerned about this. When you have the President of the United States coming out and saying, pushing a Muslim ban, it makes it not only harder to recruit people in that community, it makes it harder to retain them. And that's as well, but the idea is that when you're coming from a law enforcement perspective, you can only go so far. Absolutely, Chris. I could agree with you more there. And look, besides, I think that, look, again, with the president coming out and saying this, and his response not being to offer support or condemnation and just leave it at that. Look, Chris, I remember, I'm someone who judges history in terms of pre-9/11, post-9/11. That was a defining moment for me, for many of my generation. And I think that for many of us, it was a call to support our country. And I suspect in the UK, there's a lot of that same feeling. And I think that, again, when you take attack that seeks to attack sort of marginalized communities already, it does nothing more than hurt that, and it doesn't help, it doesn't push anything forward. It doesn't have a real dialogue as to how we can fix what is a gap between intelligence and law enforcement, which does exist. That is a conversation we have to have. But when the President of the United States is instead going after these marginalized communities, it doesn't further that discussion.
And Chris, we should forget there's another real practical element to this. Terrorism is a tactic designed to instill fear and terror in those who are watching. And President Trump actually hyped the threat. He played into this, and he gave the terrorists the victory they didn't achieve.
I just want to say that the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at Manchester, to me, was so remarkable, because that's, this has just happened, and they're out there, and that I couldn't think of a better response. Ned Price, Naveed Jamali, thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Did the president just